The one thing, and your wife probably understands this, is when you have cancer, that's when you really find out who your friends are. My husband filed for divorce, which is really common, for women with cancer. And mine was on my face, I couldn't hide it. But Paul was really, really there for me. And he really loved me when I couldn't love myself. And he made me realize that I was more than a face. And I think that is really what was really important. I needed to know that I was more than a face, and that I still had something valuable to offer.
Are you confident? Do you have consistency? How much conviction do you have? I'm Daniel Gomez, the Confidence Architect, a business strategist, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. On the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, we will help you unlock confidence to create consistency and develop conviction. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence. Welcome back to another episode of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show. What an amazing day it is today, and I'm just grateful today. I woke up with a good smile on my face. Not that I don't wake up with a smile, but today's an extra special day because I have a special guest this week on my show, and I just see the energy, the positivity. As a matter of fact, she just had an epic summit that was a hybrid. Not only are cars hybrid, but she's doing things that are hybrid that no one's ever done. So let's welcome to the show this week, Miss Lea Woodford. Good morning, Lea. How you doing?
I'm great, Daniel. How are you, my love?
Man, I'm doing amazing. I'm just full of energy. I was excited. I've been looking forward to this interview. I kind of, I belong to your Facebook group, and I just love all the positivity on there. And you're positive, right? You're wearing red. I love it because the audience on the podcast only hears the audio, but I see the red. It's like you're on fire. You're bringing life. You're bringing passion. So I just love that red on you. So it looks amazing. So I know who you are, but can you tell the amazing audience of the Daniel Gomez Inspire Show, who is Lea Woodford?
Daniel, I have been many people. Like most entrepreneurs, I've worn a lot of hats. I studied journalism. I loved it. I couldn't do it for a long time because when you're first starting out, and I found myself divorced at 23 with 2 little boys. So I actually jumped into sales and marketing for a long time because let's face it, you can make a lot more money in sales. But my passion has always been journalism. So I started SmartFem I conceived it in 2009, and we had the hard launch in 2011, a soft launch in 2010. But, I am a digital marketer and a TV personality and a magazine publisher and, an event coordinator. Wow. So and a professional speaker. And, it's weird. Marketing is a moving target. The minute you figure it out, they change the game.
Well, I heard everything you said, and what I don't think the audience caught was this. I caught it right away. You started in 2009. And for those of you that don't remember, we had a big crash in 2008. So I just love the fact that what Lea is saying is in the midst of adversity, in the midst of economic downturn, she made the conscious decision to start her business and do the full launch. Is that what I heard?
That's what you heard. And I'm just going to say, you guys, that economic downturns are such an amazing opportunity. It can be an obstacle or an opportunity, but you have to make the choice. And I like the economic downturns because I hear from people all the time, oh, if I only had the time, if I only had the time. Well, guess what? Now you have the time. You have the time. Create something.
I love that. You know what? I'm going to do this a little bit earlier in my show, but audience, this is the time I tell you to get your pen and paper out. Something magical happens when you put pen to paper because Leah's about to drop some bombs. So let me ask you this. You made a great comment right now. Why do most people see it as an obstacle and not an opportunity when it comes to economic downtime? Because right now, 2008 was huge. This 2020 COVID, 12 years later, we kind of find ourselves in the same predicament. Why do you think most people are focused on that obstacle instead of the opportunity, Lea?
Well, I think we're creatures of habit, myself included, and we have our comfort zone, and a lot of people, myself included initially, I had a live event scheduled for April, the SmartFem Summit, and I decided I was asked to be a speaker judge at Pete Vargas's event. Advanced 360, and he was going live. And I decided to be a speaker judge, and I learned so much, and I completely pivoted. I hate that word pivot now, but I did, and made my summit virtual. And then I realized that was good. Now everybody's online, everybody's doing virtual. So I thought, now's the time to really create something special, because the problem with Zoom calls is we only see a face. It's very one-dimensional. So we decided to do a hybrid this next time. I just decided I wanted to be a trailblazer and not a pack follower. So whatever everybody else is doing, I'm going to do the exact opposite.
I love that. I see that. So going back to 2009, right? Because we're talking about 11 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
What gave you somebody out there right now, let's just be honest, this whole year has been uncertain and there's stuff going on. And most people are focused on those obstacles instead of opportunities, but you did it in 2009. If you had to give two pieces of advice to somebody out there right now of what you did for yourself in 2009, here present 2020, what would you tell that female, especially why don't we talk to the women today? Talk to that woman right now and tell them, hey, what is it that two action items that they can take, or two ideas that they can take away from you right now that you did in 2009 that really help you to just get momentum and look at where you're at 11 years now?
Well, let me tell you my backstory, why I started SmartFem. At the time in the 2000s, early 2000s, I became a TV correspondent, and I was a columnist. I was a dating and relationship columnist and TV correspondent on all the stations. And my daughter in 2009 was a freshman at NAU. And one of my dating segments came on in her dorm room, and I got the call. And she calls me and says, "Oh my God, Mom, you got to stop this. You told me the man's not the plan, and to focus on my education and get my life in order before I plan on marriage. You need to use your contacts, your influence to create something that will educate and inspire and empower women." And she was ashamed. She was ashamed of me. She was embarrassed. She goes, "It's not congruent with the way you raised me." She goes, "You were working." I didn't get child support, so I worked all the time, because my daycare with 3 kids was more expensive than my car payment and my mortgage. So I worked all the time.
Yes.
And what I learned was I had to really take her words in, and I had to make my girl proud. And I realized, the glass ceiling is still there for women, because women don't take ownership of their lives. And they do still feel that, Prince Charming, there is no Prince Charming on a white horse. I'm just going to tell you. And there is no pink team. There is no blue team. You be the very best version of yourself, and get your life together, and know that, and own the fact that you can take care of yourself. And then you find somebody who really compliments you. And so you're not dependent, you're interdependent.
Yes. So let me ask you this. Was there a time in your journey where you lost your confidence, and what did you learn about yourself in that season?
Oh, yeah. In 2011, my then husband actually it was 2010, he was in a severe motorcycle accident. He was a captain for Southwest, and he was in a really bad motorcycle accident. And it was 16 months of rehab. The guy, he was in a coma for 31 days. He didn't know who he was. He didn't know who I was. He couldn't walk. He couldn't talk. So he had to learn everything again. And then he had to be signed off by 10 neurosurgeons to fly again. So I had to put my entire business on hold. SmartFem was on hold till we got him together. And then shortly after that, I was diagnosed with a rare form of skin cancer, and they took the entire right side of my face off. And it was 11 months and 5 surgeries putting me together. And my face was my fortune. I was a TV correspondent and a media personality. So I was terrified. And I was 49 years old. After my 3rd surgery, my husband served me with divorce papers. So I had lost my face, my identity, my bank account. And remember, I hadn't worked because I was an entrepreneur. So I wasn't getting paid for the months, and we'd only been married 8 years, had no kids together. And because I had always been able to take care of myself, I didn't get any kind of support. But fortunately, I did have a rental house that I had paid for. So I had a place to move into, and then I started to build SmartFem, the magazine, because I could hide behind it. I didn't have to be in it. I didn't have to show my face. And slowly I started to rebuild my identity.
Wow. You said you lost half your face?
I did.
Okay.
The entire side of my face was removed.
Wow.
It was a rare form of skin cancer called lentigo maligna. I had had a severe sunburn as a child, and being a tennis player and sailing boats, being a junior sail club, I had a lot of sun damage, and they didn't have sunscreen when I was a kid.
Yeah,
So,
wow. You're saying that. We just had our Finding Your Inner Beauty Women's Conference here in San Antonio this past weekend, and it was amazing. And it was just, I started crying. It was just amazing how many women, their stories, and how everybody was talking. It seems when somebody opens up their heart, everybody opens up their heart. And they were like, well, how did you find that name, Finding Your Inner Beauty? And I'm like, well, my wife had a double mastectomy. She didn't feel beautiful because she was changing like every other hour, it seemed like, when she first had her surgery, because, she was a C cup, and, her blouse wasn't filled like it used to be. So God really just put it in her heart to find your inner beauty. And it sounds like at that moment in your life, at that season, you had to kind of find that inner beauty for yourself.
and I have to tell you, my business partner, who was a former client of mine, was building SmartFem from New York. And I called him and I told him what happened. And he did the scariest thing in the world. He gave me a plane ticket to come out to New York. And he says, we're going to launch it. And I was terrified to get on that plane. I didn't have a face, it was sunk in, and I had a big bandage. And I remember I wanted to be the invisible woman and be as small as I could to get on the back of that Southwest plane. But I remember walking through there, and there's like a little 6-year-old, and she pointed up to me and she goes, look, mommy, there's the monster lady, and it was really, women are so defined by what they look like. And, being on television and having been a media personality, and I was 49, I was about to be 50. There's already an expiration date for women, So it was really scary. And when I flew up to Paul's, he covered up all the mirrors and he said, we're going to focus on SmartFem. Your message is important. My ex-wife is teaching our 13-year-old that the man's the plan. And so that's what we did. In 10 days, we locked and loaded SmartFem, and we had our hard launch, and we've been successful ever since.
So what did you learn about yourself in that season? Because it sounds, you made the comment, obstacles and opportunities, and definitely I got to give you the benefit of the doubt there. That was a valid obstacle, right? But what did you learn about yourself in that season? Because I think most, even men, would have just crumbled under that. I couldn't imagine going through that. So that says a lot of who you are deep down at the core.
I did have a loaded Glock 23 in my closet, I'm just going to say. The one thing, and your wife probably understands this, is when you have cancer, that's when you really find out who your friends are. My husband filed for divorce, which is really common, for women with cancer. And mine was on my face, I couldn't hide it. But Paul was really, really there for me. And he really loved me when I couldn't love myself. And he made me realize that I was more than a face. And I think that is really what was really important. I needed to know that I was more than a face, and that I still had something valuable to offer.
I think those women right now listening to this episode need to write that down. That is just a word of wisdom that Lea dropped right there. You're more than your face. You're more than a face. You're more than your face. Can you elaborate on that more? That was powerful. I felt that in my heart. You're more than your face. Sometimes we just realize the shallowness of how society has taught us to think. And what you said was powerful.
We judge constantly. We judge ourselves. We judge each other. And really, I have been so blessed because my business partner, Paul Woodford, is now my husband. I married the love of my life at 52 years old. We have worked together since 2009. Actually 2008, because he was one of my clients. I was always a business consultant on the side, and we worked together, and then we married, and we've had an amazing life together. I am truly with that special soul God intended me to be with, and every day is a blessing. Every day is a blessing. I am so grateful for the life that we have together and the love that we've created and the way it's flowed over into our children.
Well, do me a favor. I want you to you just kind of touched my heart with what you said, because I really feel that there's a lot of women that look in the mirror right now and they don't feel beautiful. And what you just said is just resonating with me is there's more to you than your face. Speak to that woman right now that, let's face it, a lot of women have been working from home. They have not been putting on makeup, or they just kind of been not as active as they have, and maybe they've gained 5-10 pounds or whatever the reason may be.
The COVID-15.
Yeah.
Right there with you, sisters, right there with you. You know what? I am just going to say, wake up with an attitude of gratitude. Life is a gift, and it's not one that we should take for granted. And, I feel blessed. My face, when I look in the mirror, Daniel, I don't recognize this face anymore because it's different than the one God gave me. But it's better. It's better because I earned these scars. You know what? I weathered the storm, and I think that we're meant to be so much more than just a face and a body, and we have so much more to offer. And I realized my joy really comes from being a fairy godmother, or with helping others, especially women, young women, help them follow their dreams and find their inner strength to go after what they want.
That's powerful. You just really inspired me right now. I just said, I admired you before. Now I admire you more. It just shows how it doesn't matter what the world throws at you, right? I like that quote from Mike Tyson. It's like, you can prepare all you want, right? And then once you get in the ring and you get hit, you're not prepared for that punch. That one punch is going to knock you out, or you're going to get back up. And you got punched with a pretty big punch, and you got up. And it just shows who you are.
But courage is a muscle, Daniel. It's a muscle. It's like working out. Of course, I felt scared every time. When COVID hit, it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And I did lose some clients. I had one client die. I had a couple of them, one that retired and one that just went out of business. And these were big clients who'd been with me for, anywhere from 6 to 10 years, because I keep my clients for a long time. But what I learned is that this too shall pass. Focus on what you can do and not what you can't do.
Yes, I love that. So let me ask you this. What keeps you consistent? I think so many of us, where there's so much inconsistency in our lives and business. And give us some words of wisdom. What can we apply to ourselves, to our business, to stay consistent and to really, because I think so many times we want instant gratification. So we don't see that result within a month, within 6 months, and we give up. And I truly believe it takes at least 6 months to a year in certain dynamics to get that result that you just to start seeing that baby of it. So what keeps Lea Ford consistent?
What keeps me consistent? I think just not looking, I look to the end and work my way backwards. I work my way backwards, and I think you have to do that. You have to start with the end in mind and work your way backwards and give yourself grace. Everything, I fail more than I succeed. But you fail forward. The only way you ever achieve anything is when you move forward and you take action. Not taking action is the biggest failure you can do. You must take action. You must move forward. And there's no substitute, because it's like driving down the freeway at night. You don't see the entire road, but you got your headlights on, and the farther down you get, the more of the road you see. And that's really what life is. The more you take action, the more you see, and trust your gut. If it doesn't feel right, then you might need to adjust the course.
I love what you said. I think so many of us, we struggle with giving ourselves grace. We're so hard on ourselves. And as soon as we make a mistake or an error or there's a failure, we beat ourselves up. And most of us quit at that. I would say over 90% of people quit at that first failure. because they don't give themselves that grace. We're our worst judge, right? We're our worst critic. Why do you think most people don't give themselves grace in that arena?
I think it has a lot to do with our negative headspace. I think it's old tapes, it's old programs. And you think about this, Daniel, when we come into the world as toddlers, we are beautiful, we are perfect, we're fearless. I mean, think of your children. You know, when they're learning to walk, they fall down. You don't say, oh, that's it, it's too hard, we're not going to do that. They get up and they keep moving. And I think that we have to really find that inner child and become that fearless, perfect person God made us into being, and tap into that and really give ourselves grace. Children, you know, they fall down, they get back up. You know, and they're not afraid to sing in public. They're not afraid to say, hey, I'm going to be president of the United States. I'm going to be a pilot. I'm going to be a firefighter. They declare it and they own it. And it's only through parenting and through society and education that they lose that magical sense of self. And we need to change education and help them really keep that special, magical toddler soul that they were born with.
I love that. I love that. Let me ask you this. You've mentioned business and your clients a lot. Give us 2 words of wisdom when it comes to business. Talk to the audience right now and say, what are 2 things that have really helped you be successful in business that you've learned in your path as far as in business aspects?
I'm just going to say integrity must be unwavering. If you can't perform, and sometimes that happens, it happens to me, be transparent, tell them, and do something better for them, you know, make it up to them in spades, over deliver. The other thing is you have to have the right mindset. Know that things aren't going to be perfect, but as long as you are willing to keep going and keep trying new things and just give yourself grace. Yeah. And I'm going to give you 3 things. I'm just also going to say there is no such thing as self-made. And the people who say self-made, I'm going to just say they're lying. It takes a village. And I couldn't do what I do if I didn't have amazing people around me. You can go further, faster together, and stop thinking that you have to do it all alone. Get a mentor.
Boom. I love that. That was a bomb right there. There's no such thing as self-made. I would be lost without my wife. I'll tell you that right now.
I know, right? That's what I know about my darling husband.
I would be lost without my wife. As a matter of fact, she's really coming to her own. And it's helped me a lot because having a nonprofit that we give back to the women, the Mighty Strong Foundation, we give back to women with breast cancer, and running a business. And then now I have 2 assistants. It's just like, it's a lot. So I said, hey, I need your help. And I'd be lost without her. So I can definitely see that Paul has added that value to you.
Oh my God, in spades.
So this is a part of the show where I love to ask you this question. What makes Lea Woodford distinctive, right? What makes you unique? We all have our own uniqueness. We all have our own blueprint, our own fingerprint. So what is a 1 or 2 things that make Lea Woodford distinctive uniqueness in her life?
I don't know if it makes me distinctive, but it makes me a lot happier. Is I really love being a fairy godmother. I love that. And I have learned, and my happiness has been serving my kids, the ones that come in and work for me, you know, my paid interns, and even my children, you know, and my bonus children. When my stepdaughter, she's now my bonus daughter, moved in with us at 18, she barely passed high school, didn't know how to drive, never had a job, and was just angry. And I couldn't get her out of bed. I brought her into SmartFem. Fast forward, she graduated with a 4.3 from ASU in engineering, got an $80,000 job in Spokane, and I taught her how to drive. I gave her a couple of jobs. She actually created marketing for a friend of mine who had a cosmetic line. So one Mother's Day, she took me to Cinderella, the movie Cinderella, and took me out for dinner. And it still touches my soul. She's just like my kid. She says, why didn't you give up on me? You know, she goes, I look back and I was really horrible to you. And I said, interesting, you take me to Cinderella, you know, the evil stepmother. And she said, you changed my life. She said, I would be living over a liquor store with my mom and probably pregnant and unmarried like my cousins if you had given up on me. And she says, I know I can take care of myself now. And that really means everything to me. I mean, I couldn't love her anymore if she were my own. And I have to tell you, she is just like my amazing husband. So I could see it in her. And sometimes others can see our greatness when we can't see it ourselves.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we can't see it ourselves because there's a big part of people, society that's just in so much pain that they can't see the value they bring. They don't love themselves the way they should. And that's kind of what I heard when you were talking about your daughter there, that she didn't see her value because sometimes we're so angry. Right? I can relate to that because I know I had a lot of anger towards my dad when I was younger, just the way he treated my mom when she was going through breast cancer. Sometimes we don't see the beauty, right? Because we get in that destructive state of mind and all we see is a negative and all we see is the ugly in things, when in reality, it's more beautiful than what we realize. So let me ask you this. What is a quote or what is a saying that you fall back on in your hardest times? When you're having that day, right? When you're having that week or that month, that season of growth. We all go through those seasons of growth where we're challenged to get to that next level. What is a quote or a saying you fall back on that carries you?
Maya Angelou, I love this quote. People may not remember what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And people really emulate, or people really grow from, we learn it's not what we're thinking, it's how we're feeling, because we're emotional creatures. And if somebody's having a bad day, if I can make their day a little bit better, that really, because when I didn't have a face, I really learned that the importance of really making people feel good and comfortable, and knowing that somebody cared for them, a complete stranger cares for them. I think right now there's so much ugliness and divisiveness. And I think that if we can love one another and love ourselves and realize that sometimes people are having a bad day. And I read this amazing story by Stephen Covey. He was on a train, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember it word for word, but it really touched me because I have been impatient at times with people in my life. But there was a guy on a train with two little kids, and the kids were running amok and yelling and screaming and running up and down the subway train. And Stephen Covey sat next to him and just said, "Don't you think you ought to rein your kids in?" And he said, "Yes." He goes, "I'm sorry. I just got back from the hospital. The kids and my wife just died, and they don't know how to process it yet." And he was taken back by that, because you have to watch what you say, because you never know the journey somebody's in. And that just touched me. The minute we go to judgment or somebody snapping, you have to realize you don't know what they're living through. Can you imagine? And I know that I'm impatient sometimes. And I think of that story, when young parents are frustrated and the kids are screaming in a restaurant, it's a nice, expensive restaurant. I think of that story. I think that we have to really show empathy.
Yeah, it reminds me of that proverb. A fool lashes out, but a wise man seals his lips. Right?
Oh, I love that, right?
A fool lashes out, but a wise man seals his lips. And sometimes we don't have to say anything. It just let it be. But the fool will always lash out because they want to be right. And that's kind of what it reminds me of that. I love that quote too, because I teach that in my corporate trainings. I always say that, and especially in leadership, right? People forget what you say, but they never forget how you made them feel. I love that. So how do we get a hold of Miss Lea Woodford? How do we find you all over the world? We know you're world famous. So how do we get a hold of you, ma'am?
Oh, you are so kind, Daniel. I'm just going to say, join our Facebook group. We have an amazing Facebook group for speakers, authors, and entrepreneurs. It's called the SmartFem Network for authors, speakers, and entrepreneurs. That's the best way to get a hold of me. And I'm on all Lea Woodford, Lea, and Woodford is just the way it sounds, but just hit me up on social media. It's the best way. I'm everywhere on all the channels, as we all are, right?
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I just thank just your authenticity and being honest and opening your heart to us. And so just give us some party words before we end the show. Just give us one last word of wisdom, if you don't mind, that we can take away with.
I am just going to say, you guys, first of all, just be socially responsible. Think of others, physically distance, wear a mask, but be good to one another.
I love that. I love what you said. So, ladies and gentlemen, such amazing words of wisdom, such awesome takeaways, right? Remember this. Your face is not who you are. You're much more than your face, just the way Lea said. I love that. That was probably that hit me the most. And remember this, you're either facing obstacles or you're facing opportunities. It's one and the same. How are you going to see your life? Are you going to see your life full of obstacles or opportunities? And I would ask you to look at your situation and look at the opportunities, because there's more opportunities in front of you than you realize. And please, if you love this amazing episode, join our Facebook group, the Distinctive Syndicate. We have a lot of inspiration. We have a lot of just awesome people commenting and posting things to encourage you. We would love for you to join our community. And that's a wrap for this week's show. We'll see you next week here on the Daniel Gomez Inspires Show. Thank you for joining us. This is Daniel Gomez, and thank you so much for tuning into our show today. We'd love your feedback. Please drop us a comment, and thank you for leaving us a review. Don't forget to subscribe to our show and share this episode with a friend. And my free gift for listening to our show today is a copy of my best-selling book, You Were Born to Fly. To get your free copy, go to DanielGomezInspires.com and get your copy today. That's DanielGomezInspires.com. And to elevate your life and business even more, follow me on social media at Daniel Gomez Inspires on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Together, we will discover the key that unlocks your confidence.